Yeah, actually, let me do this again. Because now it's hitting me. I'm like, no, I know who I probably directed this to. Because it's highly likely they don't know this. Okay, the first thing is this idea of that religion is some kind of thing that starts problems between people. No, religion is just a manifestation of people's culture, a people's culture. And religions that spread over many cultures and then actually in some way maintain uniformity or just are extremely popular. You only find this so many times in history. Like that. I mean, it's that it spreads really far and everybody knows the terminology relatively correctly. Like Putitamo is obviously not the words Bodhidharma, but the thing is, once you know about the sounds that would exist in one or both languages, you'd realize, oh no, that's actually shockingly well kept by people who probably, for the most part, wouldn't have known how to read. As we call them Dhammo in Zen Buddhism, and Dharma, Bodhidharma, and so there's a lot of these kind of things that it's like it becomes kind of, it says a lot about the nature of the religion. Now what, and then what are the rules of the religion? What is it known for? What are its symbols? Like a lot of times people think like Buddhism, but a lot of these are things that, I mean, if you didn't know why these symbols were important, it would be very difficult to understand what the reference is. So there's the thing that I like is one religion that has kept it extremely simple for everybody to understand what the idea is, and that is Islam. That Islam uses the sword as one of its most important symbols, and the reason why it uses the sword is because it is brutally violent toward all other anything that's been Arabized, and I do mean that men taking the women by force to breed, to spread kind of their racial inheritance. Islam is not a biblical religion. There is no Genesis in it. There's references to biblical events, but these are all fucked up. They're these really weird, fucked up ways of referring to and I don't mean like done in a mean way. Like they don't make sense. Like when, the Jews built the golden calf, it's not a linear story like in the Bible. No, it's a reference to, they'll be like, and then they built the cow. There's like a whole thing on the cow. Like when they built they made the golden calf, and Moses is up on Sinai, and so a lot of this kind of stuff, if you are even remotely familiar with the Bible, reading the Quran, I mean, any translation is just is crazy. It reads really crazy. So the way that actually somebody put it at one point, and it was actually a translator who has a book that you could get on Amazon.com called Early Corrections in Quranic Manuscripts. There's a reason this is very important that I'm mentioning this. He actually gets into what this sounds like if you were to read it, knowing Arabic, is that it's as if somebody cut it from two other books and then pasted it together at random, completely randomly. Said there are sentences that it's clear this was not from that. That like whatever you're reading, this sentence it doesn't make sense. Like that's all over the place. References to places are all wrong. The descriptions of Mecca and Medina, it's all wrong. Now, what some people have figured out is, no. If you are speaking Aramaic and you are a literate Syrian, and that then suddenly a lot of the Quran starts making more sense. There's a lot of words that it's clear the person just got this Aramaic word, which is the Western to the West, where Arav, or the Arabs are they're to the West, and Aram to the East. And so what it was is that like Aramaic would have been like what Jesus would have been speaking. Like there's the Assyrian Church of the East, and they use Aramaic as their liturgical language, because that's what the apostle that started their church, or the churches in their region, that apostle used Aramaic. So that's the language that was established as the liturgical language. So the one of the things that has to be understood, Islam has no link to the biblical tradition in any way, and in a bunch of ways it actually thwarts it, and then sort of throws it out in this sense. They basically, the Muslims, yeah, look, all the ducks are doing their thing. I saw this yesterday, this little area of this little tuffet of grass here. Yeah, they are totally using it as their new bunker. Yeah, I knew it. And you see, they like that sandbar, so they can hang out on that sandbar. And so yeah, that's their little spot now. Look at that, and they're all coming in. Yay! Look at that. And look at the little ducklings. There's the ducklings. We're going, where are you going, Mom? Don't leave the ducklings behind. The ducklings getting all warm. Yeah, look at that. Look at that flotilla of glory. Look at that beautiful, beautiful Oregon ducks. All right. Well, that's great. That makes me happy. See, I had a little bit of that recorded, but I didn't have any ducks in the shot, and so now it's perfect. Everything's look at it, following me along. I like that. And I'm like, let's go. Yeah, let's go down this road. Why not? Let's see what's going on. What are those guys doing over there? What are those two legs doing over there? So, Islam doesn't have the same theology as Christianity. In Islam, this kind of idea of their Messiah, the Mahdi, is going to come and he's going to destroy everybody. Like he's going to just fuck up everybody who hasn't embraced Islam. And it's supposed to be like this gigantic, rapacious, terrible war of the end of the world. The key thing you would know is that there would be these armies that would have black banners. So it's the army of the black banners is an emulation of the army that would assemble at the end of time, or the end of the world. So Islam is where we get flat Earth. Jews were doing astronomy both in Egypt and in Babylon. There's lots of Jewish apocrypha that goes a pretty good deal back that we know also has ties to other works of other ancient societies that show Earth as that understand Earth as a sphere, because of just certain calculations that you would have to make, that they would have to understand that at that time. Islam didn't have that. And the big reason for it is because of probably their location in relationship to the equator. That it's once you get south of the equator, it actually becomes significantly more difficult to chart the stars. And it's weird. It doesn't until like you look it up. It's a really weird idea, but it's I swear to God, it actually is totally true. Most astronomy is entirely northern hemisphere. Almost the entire southern hemisphere of the world has like it's just really, really difficult. Like, one of the ways of actually confirming this, ask Australian sailors. They have very specific stars they have to look for. I think one is the cross. There's something in the cross. There's even a song about it. I forget the something and the cross. I forget, because there's so few of the reliable kind of star systems like that that you could recognize, chart, and then So anyway, that's one of the many reasons why there isn't really an African. There isn't a long tradition of Africans sailing boats around. The other is that they have no harbors almost on the entire fucking continent. That's not a lie. It's like there's very specific places that have like natural harbors, and they tend to be places that as time went on, there's sea trade there. They have really great ports. But outside of that, it's just not there. It's the smooth as glass is the way that somebody described it. While Europe has more shoreline than the entire African continent because of how crooked its shoreline is. It has tremendous numbers of harbors. So now the next thing. So Islam has nothing to do with the Bible. This is exceedingly important that's understood, that Islam has nothing to do with the Bible at all. And that one of the most important things is that they think that Jews and Christians kind of don't exist, is sort of their contention. It sounds weird. Let me walk you through the quote-unquote logic of it. To them, they take it as all of these people in the Bible stories were Muslims because they practiced Islam, or they were, they had submitted to the will of God. You see, and what it is that the Christians and the Jews, they have changed their scriptures. So it wasn't that Muhammad, who didn't know how to read, got it wrong. No, it's that that everybody else changed their scriptures, and that these people were now no longer submissive to God, so that they were now practicing false religion, is the concept. That's what Muslims say. For the time that the Quran was written, there is no actual record. There was somebody named Muhammad. To the point that it's like really weird. Like you would think at that time, by that time, there would be much better recording of this, especially with the import of the things this man was saying. A lot of what you get from the Quran is stuff written on random items, lines just written on random items, written on random like rock faces and stuff. Another thing that kind of defies the idea that this was extremely popular and lots of people were flocking to him. And then there's the whole issue of, because these people are not doing it the way he likes, Well, so then what? Well, what does Muhammad do? He is brutally violent and oppressive toward this idea that, you tax them, especially or something. That is what it is. There's probably some, that's probably not that weird of an idea at the time, but cute dog. But the whole concept, though, that this was like, there's a reason their symbol is a sword. Let me just put it that way. The story, one of the stories is about how they take a whole village of Jews and burn their eyes out, and I think burn their tongues out, and rape all the women. He takes one of these women as his personal slave. She ends up poisoning him. Which he said would only happen if he wasn't the prophet. Swear to God. Somehow, there's so much stuff like this, you wouldn't think it's real. You would be like, no, wait, come on. That's pretty far-fetched. That really, yeah. Yes, there's too many sources that had mathematic levels that they were like, no, we know the Earth has to have some kind of roundness to it. There were too many. The greats had worked out too much. What it is, the reason why we've done what we've done to so many young people is because the ancient histories of people like Josephus and stuff like that, they had to be discredited by the secularists. Secularists had to make it seem like the Bible and a lot of these ancient histories that we have. I'm using the wrong word because there's actually a very specific term for sort of what when a person compiles stories that are supposed to be, like, they're not supposed to be fictions. They're supposed to be like the actual, like, what's known of the world. And I'm totally forgetting. There's an actual a name for that type of work. But and then there's this weird thing of leftists liking Islam. This and a weird fixation that can be confirmed if you look into a movement referred to as the Rosicrucian movement. This weird fixation by Germans on Islamic and quasi-Islamic kind of mysticism. And it's very odd how this relationship started, but I ended up finding out that this goes back to just simply the trade routes that would get you to the southern oceans and seas, and that through Turkey and Iran are these trade routes. This is a very important reason why those countries that Islam took those countries that we see. They were one of the major ways that anything from Europe or anything outside of Europe could go up northward, first over land and rivers, and then and that's the big thing is a lot of people. We don't know in America how many rivers exist throughout Central and Eastern Europe, and so we don't conceive of how people dealt with stuff like trade and travel and things like that. Fundamentally, Islam relies on what you would almost think of as the way that Antifa acts, things like that, where they just, it really is somebody, heads I win, tails you lose in everything, all the time. They can't be wrong, and you are so wrong that something has to be done with you with their scimitar, or you have to pay them a lot of money. And that's what their civilization always is to everybody on their borders. Tibetan Buddhism in one of their greatest works, the Words of My Perfect Teacher, a book that, I mean, like, literally, if you want to understand Buddhist Vajrayana Buddhism, it's almost par excellence, but it's rather advanced. But one of the things is they just don't teach Buddhism to them. They consider it, Tibetan Buddhists who gave up martial arts because it could lead to violence call the Muslims turban heads that can't learn the Dharma. Yet the Dharma, there's not many categories of things that can't learn the Dharma, such as demons, the mentally infirm, various forms of ghosts, because they're somehow malevolent or they don't have some faculty that's required. But I mean, the idea is that even the guardian devas of heaven, of the heavens, like the four great generals, that even they, didn't have the power to withstand, the wisdom of the Dharma, things like that. Buddhism is laced with stories like this. It's extremely mystical. People think it's practical, but it's like, no, you could apply its principles, and its principles are both very practical, yet at the same time exceedingly mystical. This is why, Christianity and Buddhism have quite a number of places that they have points of agreement on. So to understand why, like, all this is happening, it's like Christianity fundamentally just doesn't have certain concepts of angry fuck you up in it that Islam does, that are an okay thing. What's her name? Siri Ali? She actually did this great thing where she's like, yeah, well, you see, in Christianity can look at itself and change. Islam becomes more violent. It looks at itself and it realizes, like, wow, we look great. We should just buy another scimitar. That's, and it was, I mean, loosely, that, I mean, you can't get the Christian to pick up the sword. Muslims are buying out all the knife stores. That's a way of understanding that religion and the psychology of it and the way it is. We will always be apologetic about things and try to convince you. It's just the way the Christian world works because of the peoples of the Mediterranean it was founded on. Because of how peoples of Northern Europe and Western Europe embraced these civilizational methods, these high civilizational methods of debate, such that eventually the Enlightenment, what most of us understand of law, of natural rights, of even the concept of rights, that's a Scottish thing. That's a thing that the British had some good ideas, but the Scottish were like, hold my bear, you're not thinking big enough. Man is free, God made man free. I mean, really, we do get that pretty much from the Scots because of their unique history. All of this kind of religion is like this, and it does this, and all of this comes from people who were usually poorly catechized American Protestants and poorly catechized American Catholics. Once you have like a steeping in like what especially the Orthodox know. The Orthodox really will set a lot of people straight about a lot of things. They just tend to be right now the real heavies in Christianity, in making it understood, like, no, secularist, no, you're wrong. If you don't approach things that how you could justify it in Christ, like that you can point to Christianity and point to this is a should in society, or even our society works like this in a good way, such as Tim debating Andrew Wilson about rights. He really doesn't get our system with inalienable rights. It doesn't work unless you are abiding by kind of the Christian doctrine and the Christian theology. It doesn't work it isn't secular. That's more France's system, or the EU system. And as everybody is seeing right now, if you were keeping up with what's about to happen in Europe, these motherfuckers just said this is what it's going to cost for us to have for Madame Ursula, pretty much an unelected official. Remember, the EU, this is no longer even a system that these people truly elect anyone. Because you could just have your party yeeted. They do not have rights. There's nothing about the EU that's really democratic. You have no idea what tier of power is just making something happen. They are literally they are now living in the system that Adolf Hitler wanted. It took a little longer, but they're living under the Fourth Reich. It'll never matter if people don't understand that. You don't know who designed the EU, Dr. Hans Globka. This was all baked in. It's all baked in. And not only baked in, the beauty of it is they didn't even rename it. Like what Globka came up with, Hitler's lawyer, what he came up with, they didn't even rename it. It's just the ECC to the EU. You know, it's almost precisely what the kind of verbiage that you would expect. So it's a part of the Greater Germany project. That's what I've heard people refer to it as. And you could find lots of writing that would give you the fundamental idea, like, wait, so all these guys, only within a handful of years after World War II, all were meeting together again. The old gang all together again. But everyone knows how I love harping on that. America, with its indivisible rights, one of the key things is that it doesn't work without Christianity. It doesn't work without the concept of the immortal soul, Christianity. And because that was so key to the Freemasonic rights and the religion of the time, religiosity of the time, it just you're never going to, people don't get, if you're not talking about it from the Christian point of view, you're trying to talk about it from the postmodernist, secularist point of view, and it's not going to and it's kind of not going to work according to the way that they want to think of the universe, because there really isn't a view of the universe that's postmodern secularist. Not really. There's nothing there. It's like Wicca. It never was. It never will be. And for an example of like France, and France fundamentally attacked Christianity. What are they on, the Fourth Republic, Fifth Republic? But they fundamentally attacked Christianity at the inception of their revolutionary state. And then, what did they end up finding? That they never confronted their own method of maintaining themselves by oppressing oppressing former colonial states. And we only found that out because Meloni, of course, was embarrassing them because she wanted to take a chunk out of France's power in the EU and take a chunk out of their economy, and No, it was a good strategy on Maloney's part, actually. Um, yeah, there we go. That's the beginning of my day. Now, hopefully EVE Online is back up, because something happened to it, like, server-wide to its authorizations. And so EVE Online was down. Of course, you're turning here, yes. Because women now are all old and irritating and in your way. That's not nice. All right, talk to you guys later.